Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tilting Ground Untitled Notre Dame USC Football Podcast. I'm Michael Muto. I'm here with Greg Flamong. Hey, Greg, how's it going?
Good, Michael.
I want to start this podcast off by saying thank you to Brian Driscoll from last week. And when you started your interview, you said we brought on a real pro. And I hope everyone listened, because what I thought was really kind of funny was the very first thing he started talking about was how Notre Dame needed to improve their strength and conditioning coaching. And I just thought, man, that's some real granular, like, pro stuff.
Yeah, well, that's something that someone who is close to the program can talk about. Like, I can't, because it's one of those things, like, as a fan, like, I watch on the couch and I'm like, hey, they're getting pushed around, but it's like, it's so easy, like, it's low hanging fruit to be like, get rid of everyone, you know?
Right.
But, like, he's in South Bend, he's close to the program, so.
And he was a coach. I mean, it was just great. It was perfect.
Yeah,
like, oh,
so
we're bringing on a pro.
No,
Strength and conditioning needs to be upgraded.
He's good.
I loved it.
He's good. He's talking about, like, gaps and pulling and 2 gaps and 1 gap, 3, 4. That's the real stuff right there.
That is. So speaking of, I guess, strength and conditioning, you think of offensive linemen, and 2 Notre Dame guys were named All-Americans today.
Third team.
Hey, still counts.
Counts.
Still, so it was Mike McGlinchey and Quentin Powell.
Quentin Nelson.
Oh, I knew it was Nelson, and I talked myself out of it before I said it.
It's all right. It's all right. Hopefully Mike McGlinchey will be back next year, and I think everyone thinks that Nelson will too, but he's not as certain. So you sent me a text. You sent me a text earlier this week about how Adoree Jackson might come back. It would be real funny that if the 2 stars from USC's good team stayed and the 2 stars from Notre Dame's bad team left. That would be pretty great.
Well, who else is leaving? Who's that from Notre Dame? Who's the star?
That's Deshaun Kaiser, quarterback. I mean, look at I don't think anyone is surprised by this. I'm certainly not. And frankly, I feel like everyone's kind of like, yeah, we're ready to move on. Like, we know he's good, but what's up with this Brandon Wimbush guy? I think that's where everyone's at. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at too. So
everyone just wants to part ways amicably.
Yeah. Let's make it a mutual decision.
I mean, if you're Deshaun Kaiser, what are you supposed to do? You're projected to go really high in the draft. You can't leave money on the table.
Right. I mean, and, like, you know, I mean, maybe you're risking a lot. You know, I feel like, I mean, he probably could get better, but at the same time, like, don't let them see any more bad film, basically.
Look at former USC quarterback Matt Barkley.
Exactly.
He came back, and he's now the starting quarterback for the Bears, but you know, that took a while, and the Bears aren't good.
Well, he's not the starting quarterback because he earned it either.
True.
I mean, honestly, like, the Bears might pick Deshaun Kaiser.
That's synergy right there.
So, I mean, yeah, who knows?
So that's good. So what's Notre Dame got in the cupboard? Brandon Wimbush, anybody else?
Brandon Wimbush is kind of, I mean, people have been talking about him kind of in the way that people were talking about Sam Darnold, I think.
He's a runner, though, right? Like, he's a real runner.
He's faster than both Kaiser and Zaire. Like, I think he ran track in high school.
Wow.
And he's got, like, a really strong arm. Like, he overthrew Will Fuller 2 years ago, which is, like, impossible. Yeah, he has, like, a weird throwing. Honestly, he throws the ball a lot like Sam Darnold, to be totally honest with you. Like, he's probably, like, Sam Darnold is, like, you know, Brandon Wimbush will not complete, like, 70 whatever passes or 68% of his passes next year. I promise you that. But he has that kind of throwing motion. He went to high school with Minka Fitzpatrick from Alabama. in New Jersey. They won a state championship, obviously.
I mean, they have to. I mean,
Right. So yeah, people are excited. I'm excited. Let's get some new stuff going on.
maybe Brian Kelly will start running the ball.
Hey man, he's like 29-7 with a 29-4 with a first year quarterback or something. Maybe 29.
That's really impressive.
That sounds more likely. 29-7.
It was whatever the number was. It was very impressive.
Yeah, and then considerably worse without. So,
which is why, like, it just shows like he's a good coach, and then he gets kind of full of himself.
So hopefully
things start going right.
hopefully Wimbush has a great year next year, and then just leaves. And then Notre Dame just has a first-year quarterback every year for the next 5. I mean, that's what Alabama's doing.
True. What
Just
would Wimbush
rotate
be? He'd be a sophomore, a redshirt sophomore.
He would be a redshirt sophomore, yeah. So academically he'd be a junior. This would be a third year in the program. He played as a freshman, redshirted this year.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Just making sure.
So he has 3 years that hopefully he does not use.
Right. You know, if Notre Dame needs a quarterback in a pinch, Max Brown is available.
That's right.
Just throwing it out there.
That's right. He's ready to go.
Former USC starting quarterback Max Brown. I heard he was at Pittsburgh recently. That's where he's looking.
What is he from over there?
No.
Huh. It's weird.
Well, you got to go where you can play, right? He's only got one shot at this.
True story.
He's old now too, so
True
like
story.
some kid leaving home. He's like in his 20s now.
He might have to compete with Malik Zaire for services. That was another announcement.
Malik Zaire is moving on to greener pastures.
He is. Absolutely. This was announced like 3 days after the season ended.
Where is he? Do we know? Do we have any ideas?
I know that Notre Dame is allowing him to transfer without restrictions. So if I was you, I would look at Notre Dame's schedule next year and just see which teams are going to have a quarterback opening, and that's probably where he will go.
You'd think they could try to convince him to stay, but everyone's just over everything.
No, they know. Like, it's Wimbush's job.
Okay. Well, that'll be nice for the program.
Yeah.
Not having a fight at quarterback.
There will not be a quarterback competition next year.
Now there was some controversy in South Bend. Wasn't the full page ad taken out against the athletic director?
Yeah.
Money well spent.
It's not anything I would do, but people like to throw away money, so they did, and good for them, I guess.
Does it change anything? Probably not.
No, certainly not.
Especially shooting that high up the food chain.
I just don't. Like, for what? Like, I'm angry, and now you know. So, all right then, and that's it. That's all there is. Like, there's no other thing to say. It's basically, I'm mad at you for having a bad season and not firing this coach, even though I don't know who we should hire anyway.
I mean, maybe a big booster gets mad and that changes things, but other than that, I couldn't imagine.
And I don't understand like the fire Jack Swarbrick part of this, because like if you look at every other program at Notre Dame, it's like they're all kind of excellent. So I mean,
just this one thing.
He is the athlete. Like, look, I understand that football is more important than everything else, but like the men's basketball team is good, the women's basketball team is good, the hockey team is good. I mean, if the soccer team is good, lacrosse team is good. If you're gonna have a bunch of good programs like throughout, it's like, hey, you're fired. Like, come on.
The football team just had one bad year. It's not like they've been bad for like 5 years.
Right, and it's like, look, do you think he's happy with it? Like, do you think that he's like, you know what?
Job well done.
This isn't even a big deal. Like, no big problem. Like, of course not. I guarantee you, every single person who had anything to do with that ad, he cares more than you, and he is more upset than you are, I promise. But he's an adult, and he has a job to do. So, it's okay to be frustrated, but goodness gracious.
Do we have any news on the defensive coordinator front?
Nope. Like, I've literally heard nothing. I have no idea.
That's weird. You think now
Ah,
is when it starts to shake out?
that's how Notre Dame does business, though. Like you don't get a lot of leaks from them. Like when they
Unless
hired Mike Sanford, like it was just breaking. Notre Dame hires Mike Sanford. It's not like they were looking at him or interviewing him. It's just like hired. So
they really circle the wagons up there in South Bend.
well, they just do it because I guess I heard this on another podcast. I guess the rumor is that like it's Jack Swarbrick and that's it. So if there's not a bunch of people who know the information, then that information can't leak.
I mean, I'm sure Brian Kelly has input, right?
Right, but it's like if it's the two of them,
Right.
like they're not gonna.
Well, I don't know. I imagine like in Wisconsin, Barry Alvarez probably runs the ship, even though he's the AD, not the football coach.
Right.
Speaking of Barry Alvarez, I was excited to see him on the screen this week in the ESPN 30 for 30 Catholics versus Convicts because I always forget he was Notre Dame's defensive coordinator.
Yes.
I think every 2 or 3 years I read something about those old Notre Dame teams. They talk about Barry Alvarez being defensive coordinator. Every year I go, he was their defensive coordinator?
Yes. He was. And they had a very strong defensive unit.
Those are the glory days, right, Greg?
I mean, very much so. It's fun to go back and look. I mean, like, and I think that the thing that people talk about, especially in the Notre Dame community, is how like those teams were so tough and they were so competitive and nasty and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like it's true. It's not like it isn't. I think the people that they don't, the thing that they don't consider now is like they showed the fight in the tunnel.
I saw that part.
So that wasn't a new thing with those Holtz teams. Like they fought with USC. They fought with Miami another year. I mean, they were constantly fighting teams pre-game because teams kept kind of pushing their buttons. And they were always like, look, like, we're just going to fight you then. Like, that's how they were. And that's fine in 1988 and in 1989 when, you know, you don't have an NBC contract. You don't have the internet. Like you
the
don't
news
have,
cycle.
Yeah, you don't have the players constantly being interviewed and those interviews going up on Twitter and the school's media side. Like Notre Dame is so brand now. Like they're not Disney, but I feel like they're kind of like Disney. Like it's family friendly and all this hocus pocus and NBC and their soothing music and their little, you know, talks
lots of leprechauns, lots of stir the echoes.
Like there's just a lot of all that hocus.
Lots of history.
Yeah, all that stuff. And it's like that stuff won't fly. Like so the players are constantly having to check themselves because if they don't, like look at the thing with the Jerry Tillery thing. Now, granted, like it's dirty and it's terrible, right? It's like, dude,
oh yeah,
people are fighting before games, like literal brawls.
That's what I was gonna say was,
and it's something that
2016 probably for better. That's a negative thing,
right?
Like you get like maybe one of those every now and then,
right? But the thing is like, oh, why can't it be more like those guys? Like, why can't we be more like them? It's like because that wouldn't fly now, and it doesn't fly at Notre Dame. They're a brand. They chose that. Like they went with NBC. They became the brand. So their brand is not that anymore. It just isn't, unfortunately.
And really, I mean, are you excited about your players trying to fight Miami players in the tunnel before games? Like I said, every now and then it's kind of fun, but
of course you're not. But like you tolerate it when they go out and beat them on the field,
right?
Like 88 and 89, they went 24-1. You're taking it, you know, like that's just the way it is. So
winning cures everything.
Winning cures everything. I was telling somebody on a message board, like people act like this Brian Kelly thing with his like the character and players are getting arrested, and the academic sanctions and all that stuff, right? That's why he should be fired. Like someone put it in the Observer. He should be fired because no one cares about that. You know how I know that? Because USC Clay Helton had a guy punch a referee, and
that's a bit of an overstatement, but okay.
He did something to a ref, and what is like? Has he ever played again?
I think he played the next week, but other than that, no.
Right. So he got ejected for doing something to a ref. He had another player stomp on someone's groin area, and he ended up getting kicked off the team. He had 2 other guys arrested on some pretty serious charges, and no one wants him fired for character stuff, Michael. And why is that?
Because they're winning.
Because they're going to the Rose Bowl. That's why. No one cares. You don't. You don't want them to be 4-8. So just focus on that. There's a lot to talk about. We can talk about all the
I think people care, but
they do not care.
Like, you can't do what Baylor did. I mean, not to get too serious.
That's. I mean, we're talking like,
cover-ups and
like
ignoring things.
When you're enabling, like, I don't think that anyone's like. I don't think anyone's equating like Clay Helton and Brian Kelly like there was a student trainer who was writing papers for players that he didn't know about, and when they found out about it, they kicked those guys off the team immediately. That's a little bit less than we're going to bully these rape victims.
Right.
Like that's, they're separate class. This isn't Penn State.
Oof. So yeah, you're right. The fighting and the grades and stuff, all that stuff kind of goes away when your team's winning. It's true.
If they were look, he was allegedly assaulted an assistant on the sideline last year, but no one really cared because they went 10-3. No one cares.
He's just fiery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the different adjectives you use when things are good and things are bad.
Yeah.
Like you said, Clay Helton's a genius now. 3 months ago, everyone couldn't believe he was the head coach at USC.
Yeah, exactly.
Same guy.
Including me.
We'll see how it shakes out next year. That's for season 3 of this podcast.
Okay.
Any other? Was it nice to see Notre Dame as the number 1 team in the nation, as with Lou Holtz giving speeches?
I mean, Lou's great. Lou's awesome. I mean, he was, now he's a Trump supporter, so I disowned him. But at the time,
I mean, he's very old now. He was old back then.
He was good. He was good. I mean, he just saw like in his press conferences, like, I don't know if we're any good, but gosh darn it, we're going to play as hard as we can.
It's the best team in the nation.
I just don't know if it's just you saved Jimmy Johnson's ass for me.
Oh yeah. Who was the receiver who was like, we were pumped up?
Pat Eilers.
Pat Eilers, yeah. It's like, he was available?
I've heard that story so many times. And I have to say, the officiating, oh my goodness, these people. I mean, like, I understand missing a fumble call because those get missed all the time, like now. Calling a touchdown when the receiver doesn't have the ball, like at any point, is pretty rich. 2 guys, too. Like, they're both standing 5 feet away, arms straight up. That's good.
Touchdown.
Hey,
that's back in the day, Greg. It was back in the day before replay. That's why we need it.
Yeah, that's why we need it.
And better officials. Any other Notre Dame news and notes kicking around campus?
Yeah, they had their banquet.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me about that.
Yeah, they had a banquet for a 4-8 team, and it went just about as well as you would imagine it would.
Who was the MVP?
DeShone Kizer.
I mean, we'll do our own end of season awards once bowl season's over, but I guess. Who else could it
be? He accounted for 3,400 yards of offense and like 34 touchdowns or something. Like, the MVP of the team.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Someone's got to be the MVP, right?
Yeah, exactly. Someone was the best player.
They're probably not going to be that. You're not going to be that excited about it because the team went 4-8.
I mean, look, I put it in my article last week, like because I did my awards for UHND, and I said, I mean, my high school team, my junior year went 2-8, and gosh darn it, we put on ties and ate some prime rib. So
that's what you got to do.
We got awards too, so let's pass them out.
Yeah, all right. I think that's good for Notre Dame. They have any winter plans? Because since they're not going to a bowl game, they do anything fun, or they just
I don't think so.
Cutting their losses.
I think they just kind of go about their business and.
Seniors night, good run. Let's restart.
Yeah,
this
man.
thing in the spring.
Good luck with finals, and see you around.
It's terrible.
It's good to go to a bowl game.
And maybe they can watch all the bowl games now.
They can. That's true.
So let's flip it over to a team that is going to a bowl, the USC Trojans. I think the most talked about item for you and I this last week was something we talked about last week, so we won't harp on it too much. But Adoree Jackson was named the best defensive back in the country. He got the Jim Thorpe Award. Okay. All right. So that's a thing that happened.
I just don't understand it.
You were sending me stats all day, all that night. I was looking at them too, and it's just crazy. I know the Michigan corners, they play in the Big Ten, so they don't get thrown at as much as the Pac-12 guys. But the one kid at Michigan had better stats, more interceptions, more tackles. Blett was a better completion percent or a worse completion percent, however you look at it. And the other corner got thrown out like 20 times. So it's like, what? I don't know, man. Those guys are good. What do you want?
Adoree Jackson gave up. He gave up 24 catches on 49 attempts, and he had 4 picks, and he gave up 4 touchdowns. The corner from Michigan.
No, 6 touchdowns.
He gave up 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay, 6. So he gave up 6. He recorded 4 touchdowns. The corner from Michigan was thrown at 54. So Adoree Jackson's completion percentage against him was 48%, which is, it's good. It's under 50.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Not best in the nation, but
the
fine.
Corner from Michigan had 54 attempts thrown his way, gave up 18 completions, was like 33%, had 4 picks, and gave up no touchdowns. Like, what? I mean,
like I said, you graded on that Big Ten curve, but still, that's good.
They threw at him more times, and he gave up less completions and never gave up a touchdown. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, look, we just think he's better, so that's it.
For some more statistical examples, so you don't think we're picking on a Trojan, Amon Marshall.
He was better.
He was thrown at less, so you assume the person thrown at less is the better corner. I mean, just assumption. And he had 2 interceptions, and the completion percentage was a little better than Adoree's. Just a hair. It's about the same, but it was a hair better.
He had a better season. I don't.
It's just crazy.
I don't get it. I mean, if you want to give him the kickoff returns and stuff, but I mean, maybe that counts. I don't know. If it counts, then I guess you gotta factor it in.
Well, I just need to thank Notre Dame, because if that game didn't happen,
none of
this happens.
He should thank Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame's award. And frankly, Notre Dame's been giving ESC a lot of hardware the last 15 years. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's the only thing it is. If that Notre Dame game didn't happen, none of this happens.
No.
It's just wild. It's absolutely wild. Adoree Jackson is, I should have written it down, I believe the second. He's the second Thorpe Award winner for the Trojans, the first corner to ever win it, and he very well might be the first consensus USC cornerback All-American. So that means he was an AP All-American at corner, and he was a Walter Camp All-American at corner, which is his first team. So good for him.
And I will say, I feel a little bit uncomfortable, making this such a big deal, because by all, it just, from what I look at, He seems to be a wonderful person. So,
Oh no, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We talked about it all. If we hadn't been talking about this all year, I think it wouldn't have been an issue.
right.
like, like this is something we bring up on this particular podcast a lot. Is, oh, how did Dory do? And
Yeah,
it's just funny that like the culmination of how did Dory do is a bunch of preseason awards and honors.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, like, I feel bad, but I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
I like him. I think he's a great guy. He's a
cool.
good
Like,
player.
look, he totally deserves it as just like a human being.
Yeah.
You know? So in that sense, like, I'm glad that a good thing, like, if someone like him is to get something that maybe is, like, in my opinion, not deserving, then that's fine.
Right.
You know,
maybe by all accounts, a hard worker.
Maybe those Michigan guys are just like not cool. And Adore seems to be very cool.
In the offseason, we were talking about how can he learn to play corner when he's busy trying to be an Olympian. And now he's
apparently he did. And over the offseason, he liked one of my tweets. So you know what?
Oh, there you go.
Champion right there.
So the rumor mill is he might come back because, you know, he's not that great of a corner. So he has some things he could work on. And it probably won't hurt his draft stock, especially all the media attention he'll get if he does come back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he'll probably become a Heisman finalist just because he didn't even make it in the top 10 this year if you're scoring at home.
The other part, and I'll say this to you, Michael. If of the two of them, Adoree Jackson deserves to be in the top 5, much more so than Jabril Peppers.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I could talk for an hour about the Jabril Peppers disaster. My goodness.
Well, Jabril Peppers was the Ronnie Lott Impact Player of the Year award winner.
Oh my goodness!
Ahead of Adoree Jackson.
He had it's just mediocre. Like there are 90 players in college better than him. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he
just didn't have a great season. He just didn't. Those two corners are better than him.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? I was watching. They had on ESPN, NFL Network. They had the Charles Woodson Football Life or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, his Michigan highlights were unreal, and comparing Jabril Peppers to him is just an insult.
It's an abomination.
Like his offensive highlights were unreal, let alone his defensive ones.
He caught like 30 passes. Jabril Peppers had a good game against awful Rutgers is what happened. Yeah. Awful Rutgers, like winless. Ugh.
So we do think Adoree Jackson's better than Jabril Peppers.
I absolutely agree. So in that sense, it's fair that he wins the Thorpe Award.
That's true. That's the only guy he's going up against.
Right.
It's kind of disheartening that all these awards are kind of almost decided in the preseason. Well, I guess not, because Adoree wouldn't have got it if it wasn't for Notre Dame. I guess decided in the press as opposed to actual play on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, DBs, what are you supposed to do? It's kind of hard to really grade unless you're actually watching all the film, and that's time consuming. If you're an East Coast writer, like, are you really watching what Adoree Jackson does? No, you just know he got some cool interceptions and scored some touchdowns, and you probably assume he did one or two on defense.
Mm.
Whatever, good for him. Any other USC news? The Trojans will be wearing white in the Rose Bowl. I don't like that. I wish they'd be wearing their Cardinal uniforms, but whatever. The higher ranked team gets to wear the dark uniform.
Is that how it works?
That's how it works.
They should both wear the home uniforms. Like, it's not like they're similar.
Pete Carroll, I may not always defend Pete Carroll, but I guarantee he would have tried to pull for that if he were the coach.
Yeah.
He's the Cardinal looks good. Let's wear the Cardinal. He's the one that got USC and UCLA to wear their home jerseys in the rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
A former Trojan news, Lane Kiffin is he now the Florida Atlantic coach, or is it still only rumored?
No, I think it's pretty well. I think it's pretty well confirmed that he's the
Okay.
coach.
I mean, he might have been the Houston coach last week, but then Greg's guy, Major Applewhite, became the Houston coach.
Ooh.
You will always be tied to Major Applewhite.
Yeah.
After comparing Sam Darnold to a mobile Major Applewhite.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for our USC Notre Dame recap. You notice we're a little short today. That's because in equal media fairness, I will be doing an interview with USCFootball.com's Ryan Abraham. So that should be following this.
The big time.
Yeah, we got a Notre Dame interview for everyone. Now we got a USC interview.
That's right.
Because there is not a lot of football to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought in some big guns.
Cool.
Other than that, everybody have a good week. Follow us on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook. Like the post. Share the posts. Follow Greg on Twitter. Greg, what's your Twitter?
At Greg2126.
You're going to have some more stuff for UHND as the off-season progresses?
I am.
Okay.
Always.
I'll be sure to share those places when I see them.
Okay.
And I'm Michael Muto on Twitter. We're Tilting Ground on Twitter. We have all the latest podcasts and website posts. And write a comment somewhere if you like what you heard. Thank you for listening. Fight on.
Go Irish.
Whoops.